Yeah, can you tell me, you mentioned that the Brooklyn facility had 17 homicides among inmates from 2020 till what, 2024? What administration controlled BOP that entire time? Did you do anything? You didn't do jack crap, you'll bet. Mr. Patel, you wrote, COs should be included more in the corrections process, and their experience and insights should inform public policy. And Mr. Potter, do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And Mr. Patel, you also wrote, no one has more insight into an inmate's likelihood of successfully reintegrating into society than the COs who interact with them daily. Do you also agree with that, Mr. Potter?
Absolutely.
Can you give me an example on where, an idea that you think, as you represent COs, both on the policy and in particular, if you have a policy on how to address inclusion of COs into the procedure of determining reintegration into society?
Yeah, I believe anytime there's a consideration for early release, I think you should include those men and women that know firsthand how that person has conducted themselves throughout their time. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I've worked with many people that I totally believe should have went home. They were ready to go home, but I was not allowed to weigh in on that decision-making. And I do believe that when you talk to those that are closest and that spend the most time with these individuals, sometimes 16 hours a shift, sometimes longer, they know more about that individual than anybody else in the system.
Mr. Patel, how would you integrate a CO into that process?
I do think coming up with a mechanism to have their voices inputted into that, I think that they can both be on an individual level within the institution on what that individual person is what their likelihood is to recidivate, and what security level they need to be housed at, and all of those things. I think that can be become part of the case file for the individual incarcerated. But I also think that their voices at a more broader policy level could also.
Let's get on the adjudication of whether someone should be released early in re-entry first, before we get to broader policy.
Sure.
And so what I would suggest is that there's an action item for maybe all four of you is to come up with a process and a procedure to be more inclusive of COs. And if I could, I'd ask you to get on that and get us something back. Maybe Mr. Potter, Mr. Patel in particular, you can sit down and do something, because one of the ways that happens is if Congress is aware of it and can actually build on that. So I would challenge you to do that. And Mr. Wild, what do you think are the factors that most likely predict whether an inmate will return to prison?
So we often say that nothing magic happens upon release. What you were doing the day before is a good indicator of what you'll do afterwards. And so we've been purposeful in trying to implement communities of practice where people practice values of what we call good citizenship. They're seeking out pro-social community, that they're taking responsibility, that they're transitioning from being consumers to producers. No longer does the world happen to an individual, but they happen to the world. That those are some of the greatest factors, and we're situated to come alongside and provide those skills as well as the support for people's change journeys.
So, and you've indicated that you've had challenges perhaps working with BOP and getting into the system and using your program. Again, I would urge Mr. Patel, I think that if we don't come out of here with at least a few action items today, we will not have achieved as much as we need to. And I would encourage us to find a way to work with both the COs and the faith-based to see how we can integrate them more fully into helping. Mr. Milton, do you think that might be helpful?
Sounds like a good solution.
Man, I've never heard anybody say that about any of my ideas before. Glad to hear that, Mr. Milton. Well, I appreciate your efforts, and I hope that we can actually begin to take some steps to get some action items done and completed to facilitate certainly the reduction of recidivism, because I think that would make all of us happier. So now you go back.
So, Mr. Biggs, you asked for some action items. I'll give you some action items.
Can I ask
One,
you a question, Mr. Goldman?
After I give you the action items, I'm happy to have a colloquy. One, restore the retention bonuses so that we can hire more corrections officers to implement all of the laws that we want to implement in a bipartisan way, and so we can keep the inmates safe. Two, restore the collective bargaining agreement rather than unilaterally canceling a negotiated collective bargaining agreement that gives the corrections officers very important protections. And three, let's fund the First Step Act. Let's fund the Federal Prison Oversight Act, which has not been funded. There are three action items that you can take back to Mr. Trump to try to actually address the issues at the Bureau of Prisons, and I am happy to yield to you.
Yeah, can you tell me, you mentioned that the Brooklyn facility had 17 homicides among inmates from 2020 till what, 2024? What administration controlled BOP that entire time? Did you do anything? You didn't do jack crap. Yield back.
You have no idea what I did.
Time has expired.